Hey guys, welcome to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, I'll be cutting and sewing this dress that you can see on your screen. So I'll start by cutting the skirt part. I'll fold my fabric into two first of all. After doing that, I'm going to take out my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches from the end that is open. I'll connect the 1.5 inches to the length of the skirt. After doing that, I'll fold the other part over. I'll not fold it into the zipper allowance. It will stop on that line. The next thing you do is to determine the length of your dress. So my half length is 16 inches and I want my dress length to be about 35 inches. So take out the half length and then go down by what you want for the length of the dress. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the waistline and I'll go down by 8.5 inches, which is the distance from my waist to my hip. I'll indicate the 8.5 inches and I'll roll a straight line across. The next thing I'll do is to mark the length of the skirt. I want it to be about 19.5 inches. So I'll be folding 1.5 inches on the base into the lining, okay? So I'm going to roll a straight line across. Next thing I'll do is to place my waist circumference divided by 4 on the waistline. I'll add 1 inch for my dart intake and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'll place my curved ruler on the waist down to the hip like this and I'll go ahead and connect. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the hip line, and whatever I have there, I'm going to remove about 1.5 inches from it. So it depends on how fitted you want the base of your skirt to be. For me, I'm reducing what I have on the hip by 1.5 inches. So I'll slant from the hip to the skirt length like this. After doing that, I'll cut off the excess fabric. So I'm going to notch the part that I want to fold inward. So when I'm cutting my lining, I'll stop on that notch. I'm not going to extend the lining to the base of the skirt. Next thing I'll do is to take in my dart. So I went in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I indicated the 4 inches. On that 4 inches mark, I went down by 4 inches, which is going to be the length of my dart. On the straight line, I'll take half an inch on both sides and I'll connect like this, and then I'm going to notch the dart. So this is what I have. I have both front and back skirts. So these are the two back pieces. We have 2 pieces for the back, and I'm going to notch the zipper allowance also, so I know where my zipper allowance is. For the front, I have just 1 piece and the center front is on fold. So use your fabric to cut out your lining piece. I've done that for the front and this is what I have. So you can see that my lining piece is shorter than the main fabric. The lining stops on that notch on the base of the skirt. So the next thing we'll do now is to pin the lining piece. So I'm pinning from the base. You can see the excess fabric on the waist area. Pin from the base. Next thing I'll do now is to extend the dart leg all the way to the length of the skirt. So I'm going to connect downward like this. So we are going to mark out the slits for the skirt. You can see that the dress has a front slit. So what I'll do is to mark the length of my slits. I'll go up by 4 inches. That is minus the 1.5 inches that I'll be folding on the base of the skirt. I went up by 4 inches. I indicated the 4 inches. So I'm going to open up this straight line and stop on the 4 inches mark. On the base, I'll go in by half an inch. So if you want your slit to be really open, you can go it by 1 inch on both sides. But for me, I just went out by half inch on both sides. I'm going to connect it to the 4 inches mark like this. So we are repeating exactly what we have on the waist of the skirt. So after cutting, this is how open my slit is going to be. So I'll head over to my sewing machine to sew on the base to the slit all the way. After sewing the down and the slit, I'm going to pull my lining upward. I'll sew the waistline and then I'll sew the side and leave a little bit of opening that I'll be using to turn everything inside out. After sewing, this is what I have. I also went ahead to remark my dart on the lining piece and then I took in my dart. So this is the front, the back piece, sorry. I've also gone ahead to take in my dart and I've turned my skirt with the lining. You can see the 1.5 inches on the base of the fabric. So we are going to cut out the upper bodice. To do that, I'll start by taking my points. First point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. And I added extra half an inch for joining allowance. So everything that I have on this pattern paper is 16.5 inches. After doing that, I went ahead to draw straight lines across all the points and I label the lines. So next now I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and then I'm going to take my neck width. The neck width is going to be 3 inches, so it depends on how wide you want your neckline to be. For me, I'll go in by 3 inches, and for the neck depth in front, I'll be taking 3.5 inches for now. Okay, we are going to modify this later. So after doing that, I'll connect from the 3 inches neck width to the shoulder slope of 1 inch like this, and then I'll connect my neckline from the neck width to the neck depth like this. Next now I'll do is to go down by my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I indicated the 8 inches. I also made sure the same measurement I have on the shoulder line I have on that 8 inches mark. After doing that, I'll connect the two dots together like this, and I'll rule a straight line across also. So this new line is going to be the chest line. Next now I'll do is to divide the straight line into two. I'll mark the center. On that center, I'll come in by half an inch. I'll also indicate the half an inch with a dot. On the chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. Next now I'll do is to connect from the shoulder slope to the half an inch, and then from the half an inch to the dot that I have on the chest line like this. What I'll do now is to take the darts. I'm taking half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'm taking the measurement on the waistline, on the under bust line, and on the bust line. After doing that, I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. The side front, I'll take 1 inch on the waistline and on the under bust line. If you are busty, you can do 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So after doing that, I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line like this. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the bust line, and I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the 1 inch to the under bust line like this. On this other end, I'll be doing half an inch on the waistline and half an inch on the under bust line. If you're busty, you can do 0.75 inches or 1 inch. I'm going to connect the 2 dots like this, and I'll use the straight part of my ruler to just connect it upward like this. After doing that, I'm going to mark the middle of this straight line, which we already did earlier. It is 4 inches. I'll indicate the 4 inches, and then I'll place my curved ruler from that center to the bust point, and then I'm going to connect. So use your pencil to connect first. Once it's perfect, you can use your marker to just outline it. So after connecting, this is what I have. I'm going to extend this line out by 1 inch. So I'm going to go out from this point by 1 inch, and I'll use my marker to highlight it. After doing that, I'll be taking 1 inch dart on this armhole area so it does not gape after sewing. So what I'll do is to go down by 1 inch. Okay, so from that particular line, I'll go down by 1 inch for the dart, and I'll connect back into this curve as you can see me doing. So to connect this back into the armhole area, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. What I'll do is to place my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. So I'll replace this dart in between of 1 inch. So I'm replacing the dart so I don't experience any shortage of fabric. After sewing and I have excess fabric, I'm going to trim out. So what I'll do is to place my ruler on the second line, and I'll connect into the dot that I have on the chest line. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 1.5 inches, and I'll add 1.5 inches for stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 1.5 inches, and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll place my tape on my ruler, on the chest line, and I'll connect from there to the waistline like this. I'll outline the waist area, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut. After cutting, this is what I have for the front. So for the back, I'll first of all take out my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. I'll mark all the way to the length of the pattern paper, and I'll connect the dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'll start taking my point. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point 10 inches, distance from my shoulder to my waist point 16 inches, and I'll add extra half an inch to that measurement for my joining allowance. After doing that, I'm going to rule straight lines across all the points. First line, bust line, second line, waist line. So after doing that, I'm going to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. Please take note that I'm taking the measurement after the zipper allowance. On the 8 inches dot, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. The neck width still remains 3 inches, but the neck depth for the back, I'll be using 1.5 inches. So I'm going to slant from the shoulder slope to the 3 inches neck width like this. After doing that, I'll go down by my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. I'll also confirm if I have the same measurement that I have on the shoulder line there. After doing that, I'll connect the dots to the shoulder slope in a straight line like this, and I'll label the line my chest line. The next thing I'll do is to divide the straight line into two. What I have is 8 inches. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches, so I marked the 4 inches on the center. On the chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll indicate it with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the dot now to the center of the straight line like this. I'll go down by 1.5 inches for my back neck depth. That is how deep I want the neckline for the back to be. So I'm going to connect like this. The next thing I'll do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll take 4 inches on the waistline, on the bust line, and on the chest line, and I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'll be taking half an inch on both sides of the straight line. If you are busty, you can do 0.75 inches on both sides. And then after marking the half an inch, I'm going to connect upward like this. So next now is to place my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. What I'll do now is to add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this 1 inch dart, and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect from the chest line to the waistline like this. The next thing I'll do is to outline the waistline into the zipper allowance like this, and I'll adjust the zipper allowance. I have 1.5 inches zipper allowance. I'll take out half an inch on the waistline, and then I'm going to slant it upward to eliminate zipper bulge. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. And yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll be cutting on the main fabric, and we'll be joining our pieces together. We'll also be cutting out the collar. So thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, leave your questions in the comment section. See you in the next one.